One of the things that I think of as a coach and as an educator is let's just lay it all out. Here's all the possibilities that might happen so that you don't misinterpret your experience once you get there. So you don't think that you're crazy. So you don't think that this is a part of aging or, this is just your destiny, so that you can understand and identify some of these symptoms so that maybe you can communicate them well to your primary healthcare provider. Maybe you can get some solutions that through bringing some of these topics up, you can get some solutions that are going to help you with this transition. So, and then I also want to talk about some good things because there's some really good things about menopause. I think
there's so many good things about menopause, and anybody who's following me knows that I let's just say this at the outset. Like, I'm excited to get down and dirty with you. That's one of the things that I love about your podcast and how granular you get. But I also, frankly, as the dust starts to settle a little bit in this world, what I'm starting to see about myself is what I always have been, which is that I am like a big picture thinker. And one of my big messages here is that the narrative that we have been delivered about us is something that has been delivered to us from outside sources. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that does not mean that is our story. So I'm not here to be toxically positive, Stephanie, and say everything that's about to happen is going to be super fun, because that is absurd. However, what valuable thing or challenge in life or transition in life does not also include challenge? So it's about resilience, because what happens when you get to the other side, I can tell you, because I recently arrived in menopause land. I recently completed, thank you. I had a little party. I can't tell you how great it is. It's so great. It's so great. So don't despair, folks.
You know what? Let's just stay there for a moment, because you just said I had a party, and I was telling you in the pre-chat, I just was talking to Dr. Mosconi a couple weeks ago. And one of the things that she said, and this is going to be in a podcast that's going to be released after this one, but she was saying, at every moment in a woman's life, puberty, pregnancy, there's a big party, right? There's a baby shower for the pregnancy. There's puberty. She was like, when I got my period, my mom got me a gift. And she's like, but there's nothing for menopause. It's just there you go. You're aging. Yeah. Wah, wah. Exactly. So I actually adore that you had a party. I think that this is a milestone in a woman's life.
Yeah.
That should be celebrated. Aging is a privilege. Not everybody gets it.
Absolutely. That is exactly right. And it's not just oh my God, there's so much to unpack, right? Because you also have arrived, and I think for us to feel like we have arrived at a substantial part of our life. By the way, if you look at the averages, right? The average age of menopause in North American women is 51.4. That's a third to a half of your life that you're going to be spending in this period of time. So to pack that away as if now it's over is really bizarre. That makes no sense.
Yeah, just pack it up.
Okay,
pack
you're done.
We're done.
Yeah. Get back in the closet. We're done with you.
Yeah.
It's just not accurate, and it doesn't need to be accurate. So I agree. Celebrating the wins and celebrating what's coming next, which is a lot of creativity, is what I have found. A lot of autonomy and freedom, a lot of connecting with my own intuition, and really having had enough time on the planet and enough feedback to see that going with my intuition really is the best way to go all the time. That wisdom, it's wisdom, the wisdom of the elders. And let's stop looking at elderhood as a bad thing. Like you said, it's a privilege to still be alive, but it's not about just still being alive and clinging, hanging on. I'm still there. It's about celebrating all of the things that got you here and how much you have to offer. People are listening to me now even more than they ever did before. Some of that is timing, the universal timing. I just happen to have a lot to say at a time when people were like, hey, maybe we should start listening to older women, but some of it I think is just my own self-confidence.
I think
I have something to say,
I love that. And I think that there's something with that confidence. There's we'll say an unhitching, or, from other people's opinion. You're just I don't care. This is what it is. And I'm going to say it. And I think that individual who cares less about other people's opinions is a truly free one.
Yep.
and I feel like that portal or that transition into menopause with the lived experience that you've had is an opportunity for you to unshackle yourself, let's say, from the societal pressures of always looking a certain way, being a certain way. Everyone's smiling all the time. How are you? I'm fine. Even though you might be suffering or something's happening that you really need to connect with another human about. So I think that there's to be honest, like, let's just call a spade a spade. I think that scares people. I think that a free woman, a free thinking woman who gives zero Fs about what other people think, I think that is one of the scariest things on the planet. And you actually see it on social media. People that just speak up, they are trolled, they're doxxed, they're, tried to cancel them, all the things.
Well, that's why witches were burned at stake. I mean, we could really get deep about this. The other thing about it that I have actually found, which has been very interesting for me, is that I actually feel softened in a lot of ways too. I'm just starting to really explore this myself, but I find that I am able to be out in the world, and I am very much out in the world, but really connect to my heart a lot. I mean, I always was a very heart-centered person. But I think something you said really, really resonated, that uncoupling and not really being so concerned what I think other people are thinking. Newsflash, they're not thinking about me. They're thinking about themselves.
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah, that's the other thing.
They're
no one's actually
not
thinking
about me. They're okay, so whatever. But I also feel less like pressure. I'm an intense person. Like, I'm a very passionate person. I'm an intense person.
Yeah.
I didn't attend births and do surgery because I'm like super chill. Like, I would like to think I'm chill. I'm probably not that chill. However, I find that I've been able to sort of channel that passion and intensity into this like much more expansive, loving, softer way. And I'm finding that that's just, I mean, I've always known this, but that's a much more effective tool for me for communication, because there's a big difference. I feel like sometimes when we say no F's to give, which I love that. And there's the whole like 50s no F's to give situation, which is, I think, absolutely accurate. But sometimes I can read as harsh, which is, I don't think is necessarily what it's meant as.
Right. Yes.
And I don't want to play into like female stereotypes too much here and gender role stuff. But for me, I find myself just softening and relaxing. And then the message is received even more readily because people are like drawn to that love and that receptiveness. It is, I don't know, whatever. It's endlessly interesting. I feel like each day there's a new revelation in a really cool, positive way. I couldn't be more thrilled to be almost 58.
Wow. I have to say, I'm so drawn to that because for one of the things I've constantly struggled with, I've been very open with this on the show, is just leaning into what I think you're saying, and I'll put a label on it. It might not be right, and redirect me if I'm off here. Is like leaning into that feminine, that feminine energy. And this is not sex; it's like chromosomal agnostic. But we're just talking about
it's like, energy.
Yeah, that feminine softness where you're just coming from. There's nothing underneath it. So that zero F's to give. Sometimes I agree with you. It can come across as like F you because I've been really, really hurt before. So now I've built a wall around my heart and I've built a wall around myself. So no one's going to ever do that again. That's not, I think that people can also sort of read that. But that softness that you're talking about, that gentleness or that just expansive love and that stillness, I think what you're tapping into, which is something that I am myself personally just very drawn into, because I've always, like you, very driven, very accolade. I've sort of measured my worth based on how many letters were behind my name and how many courses I've taken and all the things. But I do think that there's something very special about unhitching your worth from the external, whatever it is, into the ether and, into the black hole of what, culture decides a woman should be. Yeah. Just love that. And I think we'll probably have an offline conversation about that. Or maybe we'll have another podcast about it.
I know, totally. Cause I feel like we need to talk about these things. We need to support one another. Yeah. And I think probably one of the reasons that I've been drawn to you is that, I see a lot of myself in some of the women and the colleagues that I have met in the, online and through social media and through podcasting and honestly through the pandemic. Yeah. And, like I can speak for myself, like I have a lot of male energy, which is how I got where I am today. Like I am a very ambitious person. I am very driven, but I'm a human being. There are a lot of energies in me, and I'm finding this just really sweet spot for myself of like, yeah, settling much more into my feminine and being, I think, less threatened by what I think people are thinking about me in that way. Like, am I being too much? Am I being this? Am I being that? I think, anybody who's successful out in the wider world as a woman, as a female bodied person, has experienced a lot of pushback for being in their masculine. While at the same time, we are asked to do that in order to, quote, succeed. Right. And there's just so much back and forth about being sexy, being feminine, being soft, being a mom, blah, 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 all those things. It's like confusing. And again, it gets back to like just not attending to that anymore. Maybe it's just exhaustion too. Maybe I'm just like, oh,
it's like I'm over it.
I'm tired. Yeah. I'm tired.
Well, it does seem like it can seem like it's a moving target, right? It's like be sexy but not too sexy. There was this monologue in the Barbie movie. I don't know if you saw it. It was
I haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
America Ferrera's monologue. I actually have it on my phone, and it's like be sexy but not too sexy. Be happy but not too happy. It's like all of these. Like, what's the sweet spot? It's very difficult. Yep. It can often seem like a moving target.